Hello, I'm Smithy Biscuit, and this is my submission video for Descent Maximum Hotshot 8% for SGDQ 2021. So, Descent Maximum is much like the Descent 1 and Descent 2 runs I've submitted to G and run in GDQ both in the past. Descent Maximum specifically is the level set originally used in the PS1 port for Descent 2. While Descent 1 was a straight direct port of the levels from the PC version, the PS1 controls, the comparatively limited PS1 controls for the game meant that it was pretty hard to handle at the same scale. So when they went to port Descent 2, they kind of redid all the levels, scaled them down considerably, made them a lot smaller, which does make this a much faster run than any of the other two games. I am playing these levels on PC, however, they've since been made available as a PC level set, so we're playing through those. With the much smaller levels, they're much faster. The longest level in the game is only about a minute and a half compared to some in the original Descent 2. Some levels get as long as like 3 minutes or so. So yeah, it's a pretty fast-paced run, and right off the bat, something you'll notice is just kind of the weird movement. Like I'm no straightforward movement. I'm very rarely traveling exactly where I'm facing, and that's because much like many other old first-person shooters, such as Doom, the fastest movement is not just to face forward and hold W to go straight. The directional vectors combine when you move on multiple axes of movement at the same time. And so like Doom's strafe running, where you're, say, moving left and forward at the same time to get a little extra speed, since Descent is a fully 3D 6 degrees of freedom movement game, that does mean that you have 3 axes of movement you can move at the same time. So, for example, straight, forward, and down right here to collect this blue key a little bit faster. It does make movement very tough to optimize in this game. In fact, you pretty much never fully optimize a level just because of how precise it is. You combine the fact that you need to find these precise angles to get your maximum speed with the fact that Descent does not have like a free mouse look. There are physics tied to your movement and rotation. You can't just snap your mouse to one spot and instantly be facing the way you want to. Turning and rotation has acceleration and deceleration. So you have to make a lot of careful movement, a lot of planning to how you're going to rotate, and just try and also move around enemies as much as possible, because clipping into enemies or like onto the corners of walls and stuff can instantly kill your momentum and just bring you to a screeching halt. So there's also doors. While doors are still opening, doors take a little while to open when they're first hit. So you want to make sure you don't clip a door while it's still in the process of opening, because that can also kill your momentum. Anyway, that was the first boss back there. One of the tougher ones, because we're still on fairly minimal equipment. We did pick up quad lasers back in level 2, which doubles the output of the basic laser weapon. I grab a spread fire cannon here by killing one of these foxbots. That's a backup in case we lose the quad lasers, which is something that can happen starting in this level, because this level introduces the thief bot, who, if he gets the jump on you, they can steal your power-ups and weapons. Most notably your quad laser augment, which quad lasers are going to be very important throughout the run, not just for DPS reasons. Quad lasers are one of our best DPS options for this stage of the run. That is something that changes quite a bit considerably from the vanilla Descent 2 campaign. The original Descent 2, they were a little too excited to show off the new weapons they added in the second game, which resulted in you getting the weapon with the best DPS in the second level of the game if you were willing to solve some secret puzzles. Here we get a little more weapon variety because the curve at which you are given new equipment is a little bit better distributed. So we're running quad lasers for a while. Yeah, the spread fire cannon is a backup in case we lose the quads, because then the spread fire has better DPS. And it's still fairly comparable. It's not that bad of a hit. So if we get bad luck with the Thief Bot, it's not the end of the world. But as I said, we'll need quad lasers for a bug a few times in the run later on, which I'll get into detail once we get there. So anyway, we're in the second world. The game is divided into 6 4-level worlds, each with their own theme. So the first intro world is just kind of like a kind of a generic like rock themed world. This second world is Quartzon, the water themed world. Right there, that is a very common point to have the Thiefbot steal something. The what the Thiefbot steals exactly is somewhat randomized, which is both a blessing and a curse. But in this case, we got lucky. While the Thiefbot did get a steal off, the only thing it took was a single homing missile. Missiles are not super essential in the route for this level set, so losing a homing missile is really not the end of the world. Homing missiles do a little bit more damage than your basic starting concussion missiles, and will lock onto track onto enemies. But the thing about homing missiles is they will never lock onto bosses or reactors. So they're not as valuable as they might seem at first, because if there's enemies in the same room as a boss or a reactor, unless you can get pretty close and make sure there's nothing else in its line of sight, it can be kind of hard to get them to actually shoot the reactor. We don't generally care much about damage output on anything other than the bosses or reactors, with some exceptions, mostly involving Diamond Claws that drop that block choke points. Diamond Claws are one of the most problematic enemies in this run. There's one right here that we have to clear just to get around. They are melee type enemies. Melee type enemies were buffed considerably from Descent 1, where they were fairly easy to deal with. These have much trickier AI to deal with. They like to block choke points and move someone in unpredictably. And these ones also have a plasma-based counterattack that triggers when you use energy-based weapons at random. Sometimes you can just shoot them down and they'll be fine. They won't do anything back. But other times, every laser burst that hits them will result in a plasma shot being shot back at you, which can result in tons of damage. If one gets a hold of you, sometimes you're forced to just shoot them in front of your face and just hope they don't spray plasma all over in your face. Anyway, this is the sewer. It's the boss level for the second world. It's also, I believe, the longest level in the run, which, still very short compared to most levels in Descent 1 or Descent 2. We also grabbed the Afterburner at the start of this world, which is, you can see the red gauge down in the bottom, kind of in the bottom left, below the yellow energy gauge. It starts at 100 charge, and as you use it, it drains down to 0, and then it'll gradually refill back up to 100, but drain some energy in the process. So energy is used for both the Afterburner and for energy-based weapons like these quad lasers I'm using. I've been gradually grabbing upgrades for it, which is why it's been changing colors routinely. We got unlucky there. There's a Diamond Claw that actually spawns in the exit shaft there, and it can block you as you try to exit. So right there is the bug I was talking about with the quad lasers. The quad laser augment, the 2 additional projectiles that spawn, actually spawn slightly ahead of your ship's position, which, if you angle it just right, allows you to clip those shots through doors or walls. And there are multiple cases in this level set where there is a switch right behind a door that's behind a locked door, and in those cases it's faster to just get that angle and shoot the laser blast through the door and hit the switch prematurely. There it saves a couple of seconds. The intended sequence is to head down the hallway a little bit, see that there's a grate blocking the blue key, and then you'll hear the door open behind you, and you're supposed to go back and hit the switch. But with the quad laser bug, you can just hit that switch immediately. So anyway, this is World 3, Brimspark. This is a lava world. We also pick up the Gauss Cannon there. It's a fairly useful weapon. In terms of raw damage, I believe the quad lasers are still a little bit stronger, but it has a much faster projectile travel rate. It's also not an energy-based weapon, so it's good for fighting those Diamond Claws, since it will never trigger their plasma-based counterattack. And it's also good for opening doors from a distance, since the faster projectile, like travel rate, means that you can open doors when you're further away, and ensure that they're open by the time you're actually trying to fly through them. When you're using lasers or something to open, very often you have to slow down slightly before you get to the door, so that it doesn't, so that you don't crash into the door while it's still opening. Thiefbot shows up again and steals something from me again. This time it's just a concussion missile, which is really no big deal. You actually get a partial refill on concussion missiles at the start of the level, at the start of every level, if you are below a threshold, depending on the difficulty level. For Hotshot, I believe that that is 4 concussion missiles, if I'm remembering correctly. So getting a concussion missile stolen is absolutely no big deal. I usually use them to kill the reactors, since they are a renewable source of secondary weapon damage. You can fire primary weapons and secondary weapons at the same time, so the optimal way to kill bosses is usually just to hold both triggers and wait till it dies. Secondaries fire at a pretty slow rate. They usually make for a pretty reliable method for how long you have to keep shooting at a reactor before you can turn away and let the projectiles that you've already thrown out to finish the job. It is worth noting, though, that reactors gradually increase in health as you progress through the game, so the amount of time you need to spend doing that does ramp up as time goes on. A couple new enemies introduced. We saw one of them briefly in the previous level, the Bandits. So they're another melee type enemy, but they primarily actually deal damage to your energy rather than to your shields, which can be a little problematic, but we don't see those too often in this campaign. This level has quite a bit of a shortcut. If you rush through at the beginning, the Thiefbot opens up a secret area with a ton of power-ups and a much faster way to the reactor that lets you skip most of the keys. It's a little bit of a sequence break on that level. And we're on to the last level of Brimspark, the boss level called Hell's Kitchen. This one involves shooting a lot of switches to lower grades surrounding the different keys. So we're just going to fly through here, pick up another switch here, which hitting the switches can be a little tricky. Again, we use the Gauss Cannon here because with the fast projectiles, it's a lot easier to hit these things faster, a little bit more reliably, without having like Diamond Claws or something swoop in and block the shot.
Oh, there's a hidden passage
and
down there.
yeah, we grab a red key and we come up on the boss here. This boss is extremely dangerous. It shoots mega missiles, which have a huge blast radius and are mostly going to one-shot me if those explosions occur anywhere near me. So I go out of my way there to grab a invulnerability power-up. The boss is immune to energy-based weapons, so we're going to use the Gauss Cannon and just unload all the missiles we've got. I try and kind of accelerate towards it and drop some proximity mines to get the momentum to carry them into the boss to deal a little extra damage. It's not a very reliable method, but you just want to deal as much damage as fast as possible there. And right there, we kill one of the new Spindlebots to grab a Helix Cannon, which is the best weapon in the game, DPS-wise. We are at the halfway point in the run now as well. This is level 13 out of 24. We're on Limefrost Spiral, the ice world. Thankfully, mercifully, there are no special ice physics. Ice world just basically means we get this nice, cool blue color palette. Got lucky there and got a cloak drop from the cloaked Diamond Claw there, which I kind of struggled to pick up a little bit. This reactor room can be pretty nasty. This level is very short but extremely dense packed. These Spindlebots do a lot of damage. There's a few of these kind of relatively recent. They were introduced a couple levels back. These the little kind of puffer fish gun thing. They're basically suicide bombers. They try and fly into and explode immediately on contact, and they have a huge knockback, which can just send you flying away off course and deal a ton of damage. So you need to be very careful about those guys in the exit room. Got a couple of these. Yeah, there's these little preset red diamond proximity mines you gotta watch out for. Generally best to shoot them if they're going to be in your way. Destroying a Spindlebot that blocks this red keycard passageway before I loop into the room. and pick it up. So yeah, most levels have this blue, yellow, red key card system in that order, kind of like Doom. And we'll be moving on into the boss here. Yeah, this whole the whole Lime Flare Spiral world has some pretty tough levels. So you can see the shield indicator, the blue number in the middle of bottom of the screen is getting pretty low. So I make sure to grab this cloaking device for the exit trip, because yeah, there's just a lot of dangerous enemies and my shield is pretty low. But yeah, make it through fairly cleanly and make it onto level 15. We start getting Mercury missiles here, which are which function a lot like concussion missiles. They don't lock onto anything, but unlike concussion missiles, they have a very high travel speed and very high damage. So they're very helpful for burst damage. Just good for killing stuff quickly when we need to, particularly bosses. And we're going to pick up a new trinket here, the energy to shield converter. Energy to shield converter allows you to convert energy to shield, surprise, surprise, at a 2 to 1 point ratio. The catch is that it only allows you to do so with energy that is in excess above 100. This is to keep you from just farming energy centers. Energy centers allow you to restore your energy to 100. So you need to find extra energy on top of that to be able to convert into shields. We also get new enemy type, the Seeker. They have Mercury missiles as well and are pretty dangerous. But we're on to the boss fight in the level of the Temple of Searings. This level actually has no key cards, and I do a little bit of sequence break shooting a switch earlier than intended there. It's kind of hard to line up, but it does save some time in terms of the overall routing here. Need to shoot that switch as well to deactivate a force field at the top. The intent is to you shoot that switch, come up here, lower this force field, go down to the bottom of the level, past the boss fight, then shoot the switch down there to lower a force field that's towards the exit of the level. But you can shoot the bottom one early, so that you don't have to go all the way back down and then up again. This boss is really challenging. Thankfully there's a cloaking device to help, because it does have slightly homing shots. But it does have a lot of blast radius that is hard to avoid because the arena is relatively small. And it causes the flash effect, which is why the screen kept whitening there. So a direct hit there will completely blank out your screen for a second or so, which, you know, obviously makes it hard to fight him and makes it hard to continue avoiding damage. So you got to be careful not to get fully blinded. But thankfully the boss went overall pretty well, and we're onto the fifth world, which does bring back a little bit of lava. Lava does have splash damage if it's hit by any weapon, and also deals damage on contact. So gotta be careful around it. It's dangerous. Even if you think you're dodging shots near the near lava, you may still be taking splash damage. So it's really important to be careful there. We picked up the Phoenix Cannon a little earlier there, but you're not going to see that used at all in this run. Phoenix Cannon is kind of a funny weapon. It's really dangerous to use. The shots bounce off of walls and can hit you if you're not careful about the angle. But ultimately, it's also a huge energy hog, kind of like the Helix Cannon. And Helix Cannon still just has better damage output, so we'll be continuing to use the Helix Cannon for boss kills for the most part. So this level introduces a fun new mechanic. The keys in this level are held by enemies. The first two are held by these really fast mine-laying bots. You really don't want them to get away if you can help it. But they always start in a set position, and if you're quick about getting a good shot on them with the Gauss Cannon, you can kill them before they get the chance to move. That one moved away, but thankfully didn't completely get away from me, and I was able to kill it pretty quickly. There's a if you can get this red key here from this bot, thankfully this bot doesn't try to run. If you get it really quickly, you can kill it, get the key, and get back out through the door before it
Someday I
locks.
will get the quick kill on that.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that there, so I was forced to shoot the switch and lower the wall to the side. It's not much of a time cost, like a second at most, but it is a very hard quick strat to get because when enemies drop items, they just pop out at a random velocity and angle. So it can be hard to predict where the key is going to be and hard to get the key before you leave the room, and you know, get the key in time to exit the room before the door locks. But yeah, fairly clean Mindbender station there, getting the key bots handled fairly efficiently. Thankfully, the fast fleeing keybot thing is not a mechanic we see much in this particular level set. We will be seeing it again in the next level, but in the next level, all of the keys are tied to doors that have switches immediately behind them. So any of the keybots that get away, we can just use the quad laser bug to just skip having to get. And that results in that any keys we're not able to obtain it's just a very, very small time cost, because that means we have to go up to the door to squeeze the laser shot through the door. But with the key, we can shoot it from a distance. Take a little while to hit that switch. Hitting that switch from that distance is really difficult to do.
Oh, I'm also on the wrong.
A little bit of a mistake there, just not quite swapping to Helix before getting the reactor. But fairly clean level there. And yeah, this is Warp 95. This is a very similar map to Mindbender Station 2 levels ago. Kind of a small looping track with keybots in it. The track is much more complex though, and much narrower, which makes avoiding damage a little tougher at times. Also have to be very careful about energy use here, because this boss is immune to the glass cannon. So gotta make sure you've got enough energy to helix it down to 0 health. If you run out of energy, that can be really bad. You're forced to leave and go to an energy station and come back later.
Okay, I got him.
I do manage to get the red keybot here, which is good because the red key, I believe the red door is actually down a slightly longer hallway than the other two. I slow down here a bit though because I'm taking a lot of damage and I'm getting pretty low. Speaking of which, I haven't really talked about what happens on a death yet. On a death, in most circumstances, you just get warped back to the start of the level with basic equipment. You start with the basic lasers and the concussion missiles like we saw at the start of level 1. But you drop all your equipment on death. So as long as you can get back to where your equipment is, you can just pick up your gear and resume. If you die during the self-destruct sequence, though, that's another story. If you do that, then the level ends immediately, and you start the next level with basic equipment. This level set doesn't really allow for that to be particularly helpful, generally speaking, because you know, that means no afterburner, no weapons at the start of the next level. Like, in theory, it can be a time saver because you just skip the need to go to the, to do the escape sequence and reach the exit door. But just ultimately, the cost of losing all of your equipment is generally too great. With one exception, we will see on the final level, since we, there's no need to save your equipment at that point. The final level, we will just be skipping the escape sequence and ending the level early that way. Anyway, we are on the final world of the game. Just kind of this greenish, like alien-themed world. It introduces some of the most dangerous enemies in the game, like these spiders that we're seeing right here. Spiders burst fire a bunch of concussion missiles, so there's a lot of splash damage around where they are. And they also have a random chance on death to spew out these little spawn enemies, these little green hornets, that are really small, really hard to hit, and just a big pain in the butt, really. But usually you can just kind of fly around them, but sometimes they can be a little bit of a problem. A lot of cloaked diamond claws in here. Cloaked enemies are barely visible. You gotta watch for subtle shadows. And the upside of them, though, is that they oftentimes will drop cloaking devices, which I did get one there. cloaking devices render you partially a bit invisible. Enemies will not see you unless you fire your weapons, run into something, whether an enemy or a wall, or use the afterburner. Even then, they don't consistently notice you when you use the afterburner. So yeah, these endgame levels are pretty tough. We've got a Keybot here, but thankfully it's in the shape of a blue guard, one of the slow-moving homing missile bots. So it's pretty easy pickings. It's a little bit of a tankier enemy, but Helix Cannon again has very high DPS, so we can take it out pretty quickly. Another Keybot for this this red key as well. This room is particularly dangerous because it's in this little like choke point, and there's these 2 diamond claws here, and those materialization centers, mat suns, spawn additional diamond claws. So it's really easy to get trapped in the in that little hole in the wall with the red Keybot if you're not very quick about it. Yeah, these diamond claws again, they're just one of the worst enemies in the game. You really have to be careful with them. They will not hesitate to ruin your day. Picked up an Earthshaker missile back there, which will be used in the final boss fight. Earthshaker missile is the most powerful missile in the game, but it does a ton of splash damage. You can very easily blow yourself up using it. I also picked up the last primary weapon in the game, the Omega Cannon, but Omega Cannon does not really have any application in this run. It's kind of a weird, like, auto lock-on burst damage weapon. Doesn't really have application here. So we're on the second to last level in the run. This room right here is the worst room in the game. You gotta shoot this switch through the grates. There's spiders on both sides of the room, spamming concussion missiles the whole time. Getting shots through the grates is really precise. So sometimes you just can't really just get the shots through. So yeah, we're seeing the mechanics that happen on death there. You know, just able to pick my gear back up and keep moving. Unfortunately, though, take a lot of damage doing that, and I just take another death up there. This is by far the hardest level in the game. I've done like probably 100 runs of this game or so, probably a couple hundred actually, and I think I have done this level deathless in maybe like 2 of them. This is just a very difficult level. It also introduces one new enemy type right there, the Boar's Head. Very dangerous enemy. They shoot. They have like a rapid fire plasma launcher and also a smart missile launcher. Smart missile launchers are a dumbfire missile that explode into a bunch of homing plasma modules. If a smart missile hits you directly, those plasma knobs just instantly hit you, and it's essentially a one-shot. You just die. Even if you're at a full overcharge 200 shield, you're generally just gonna die from that. But I do get the escape there, and we have one last quad laser bug here on this blue door to finish off the run. Grabbing this yellow key prematurely. Smart mines are another one-shot issue, so gotta watch out for these bots that lay them. You do not want to crash into those. They also just release a bunch of homing energy blasts when they detonate. So if you crash into them, they just instantly hit you, and it's pretty much lights out. So the exit's way down here, the red door. Very far from the boss arena, which we'll be coming up on here. The boss here is very unique. Unlike the previous few bosses, which have mostly had immunity to certain damage types, whether energy or non-energy based weapons, this one has a weak point. You have to hit him in the back. He'll constantly try and rotate towards you to face you, but as long as you just keep rotating with him, you can stay behind him. Unfortunately, I run out of energy here, but that's okay because this boss shoots Earthshaker missiles, and I need to pick up an invulnerability to fight it safely. So the limiting factor here is actually waiting for the invulnerability to wear off before we can just die like this to instantly end the level and end the run in a somewhat anticlimactic fashion. And yeah, that run was I just got in a session yesterday, and it is actually currently world record at 29 minutes flat. So pretty solid run. you can see kind of the places where you can lose some time to RNG to bad diamond claws or just some execution errors. It's very easy to die, lots of burst damage flying around in the game. So yeah, the extra 6 minutes should account for any possibilities of extra time lost due to bad luck or deaths. I'll make sure to have safety saves up on in case the worst happens and I die during escape sequences and lose too much valuable equipment. Yeah, that should be it. Yeah, Descent Maximum, kind of the Descent 2's little brother, much shorter run, a little bite-sized run, showcases a lot of very, very tricky movement tech and a lot of tough, yeah, enemy management and, yeah, just, it's a very disorienting game, but that's part of the fun of it, so hope you consider it. Thank you, and I'll see you later.